lot of our audience is producers, and a lot of them would obviously love to work with you, John, on the FX network. And I'm wondering what you see in Noah, for the benefit of this audience, what do you look for in a showrunner that can bring something that's uniquely different and special and is going to attract your interest to say, you know what, this belongs on my network. And I say this because you might have heard that some people say that there's too much TV programming. So there's always this worry, how do I be unique? How am I different?
Right.
How was Noah different?
Well, I think,
Really
I think since television and film are a business, I think it's a very tempting trap for executives to try to backsolve from other people's successes and say, well, let's look at the whole range of things that have been successful, and then let's try to find something else that's related to or reminiscent of those successes. But I think when you're in the process of trying to backsolve or get a writer to backsolve from an end goal, what you're not doing is you're not starting with the writer's impulse to tell a story about a character at a place and time, and to methodically layer every decision and everything on top of that. And so I think what we try to do is at FX is we try to say, well, we hope to get to that endpoint. What is that endpoint? It's a great piece of film. I mean, I think that piece of film you guys just saw would stand up against great filmmaking of any era, right? Did you just see in the texture and the quality of the character, the writing, and we didn't do that. Noah did that.
Well,
so
how do you talk someone through that in the interview process? Because you didn't have the film to work from. How do you try to get to that feeling with this guy really has a different take, which could be really attractive? I mean, is there a
well, you listen to
process?
people. You listen to people's intent, and you judge their ability to carry out that intent. So I think Noah just made a very clear, precise, unbelievably articulate statement of intent, an understanding of Fargo, and a desire of how to pursue that. And then he also has the ability as a filmmaker and as an executive and as a producer, as well as a writer, as a composer, as many things to sort of back that up. But you listen to that intent, and I think what I'm saying is that if the intent of the producer or the studio or the network is to make a hit show, and if that intent is the governing intent of everything, then the primary intent is not to tell a great story. The primary intent is to make a hit show. But how do you make a hit show? You make a hit show by telling a great story. So you have to find someone whose intent and ability lies around telling a great story. And oftentimes telling a great story is not about imitating something that someone's done before. It's about doing something original, right? So obviously Fargo isn't original in the sense that it's predicated on a film written by the Coen brothers, but it's unbelievably original in the sense that how Noah chose to approach adapting that film into a television series is unlike any way anyone's ever adapted a film into a television series before. And so I think it was the audacity of that intent and the understanding of the kind of grandeur of his ambition. And that's what we're looking for in producers and writers is, wow, this person really has in their very being, in their soul, like an intent to actually make something that's great, of value. And the odd thing is that if you can find those people, and if you can then have a dialogue with them and ultimately give them the authority, because ultimately I just believe from a leadership standpoint, authority should reside where responsibility resides. The responsibility for that film is not mine. It is ultimately, I guess, on some level mine because I made a decision to greenlight and put the capital into it. But I'm not responsible for the choices of where the camera is or who's wearing what or what he is. So he should have the authority ultimately because he has the responsibility. And so I'm looking for whom can I delegate that authority to, right? Who has the intent of making something really special. Because if we can find those people, then ultimately that turns into a brand. And it doesn't turn into a brand because I'm sort of imposing, the idea that Coke is red and Pepsi is blue from the top down. It turns into a brand by virtue of the notion of, well, let's be brave. Let's be brave and let's work with people who are brave. And let's try to find comedies and dramas and limited series and other things that are good and real and brave. And they'll ultimately arrive at some entertaining, compelling expression of the human condition through character and tone and voice. And all the tone, voice, character, those are things don't come from me or anyone at FX. Those come from Noah. Those come from the writers that work with us.
So you did not, FX did not have the idea of doing these as 1 year limited series format. Your idea was this was going to be a series that would go on season to season episodically.
Well, we didn't know what to do, to be honest with you, because as Noah said, we were smart enough to understand that if you just take Marge Gunderson as a character and you have her solve cases, which is, by the way, that the Noah Fargo was developed into a television series, and and it was piloted before, and that was the further adventures of Marge Gunderson. But how is that ever, no matter who writes it, Tolstoy could write that. How could that ever be as good as Fargo the movie or Fargo the TV series that Noah made? It can't, because there's a preposterous conceit in the center of it, as Noah said, of this woman who had this amazing adventure, and now she's going to have 100 more adventures of the same type, right? And so we didn't know how to do it. All we knew is that this seemed to us like as great an idea as I could imagine. So let's try it. And we didn't know if it would be good enough, and we certainly didn't know if Noah had done this once, whether he could do it again, right? So it was, in fact, his decision, his ability. I mean, I think one of the things that shocked me so much is after making what I think is a masterpiece, which is the first season of Fargo, very shortly thereafter, you have a better memory of time than I. He came in and said, I have an idea for a second season. Here it is. And he pitched it. And in our estimation, it was as good or better than the first one. And so that's really what spurred the second cycle or season. And then the same thing happened again with the third. We would have absolutely discontinued Fargo after one cycle if Noah had said, well, I don't have another idea. Not as if we would have gone and found somebody else to go do another one. We would have said, oh, that was a really great success. So part of what it is if you come back to the business model, Vance,
Yeah.
I think we try to plug writers and creativity into a business model.
Right.
And we should be
right.
plugging the business model into the creativity.